over. All right, whoa, 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 whoa. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the farm. Zoe is coming out today to give the girls their vaccinations, the babies. As you saw, Jule's already had hers. But I wanted to talk to you. I think I'm going to breed Jule in May. I found a blue roan Brabant over in Alabama, about 3 hours away, and I reserved a slot in May to have her bred. Let me grab a brush. Hang on. Easy, easy. So I figured while I had Jule, and she's a great size and would throw a great offspring, that I could breed her and just have her in foal. Possibly breed her twice and have siblings, full-blooded siblings, and have a matching team. This blue roan Brabant, this is him. He's a beautiful boy. He's 15 years old, 17 hands tall, and about 1,800 pounds. About the same size as Jule. Guaranteed a live foal and guaranteed to throw a blue roan just like him. So he is a Brabant, and a Brabant is and some people say Brabant. It's like saying orange or pecan or pecan. It's just the way you say it, depending on where you are in the country. So I don't need anybody writing in the comments, you don't pronounce it Brabant. People, it's unbelievable how there's always that one person out there that's got to write some comment that you said something wrong or you did something wrong. I guess it makes them feel good inside to write a negative comment and tell you that you mispronounced something or that you said something wrong. It's unbelievable. And if you don't have anything good to say, then just don't say it, guys. Or get your own YouTube channel and see how many people say negative stuff about yours. I digress. So I'm going to breed her in May. I've already paid a deposit to breed her. And what that does is that just guarantees you a May slot, because everybody wants to breed in April and May because they want a spring baby. Well, you don't want a baby on the ground in January or February, so you want to have a spring in the break, you want to have a baby in the spring rather, and that's when most horses foal. We're going to take her over there in May, and when I say we, you know who we is. Me and Jule here. Zoe is going to talk a little bit about it when she gets here in just a little bit, but basically she'll start coming into heat in March, and then she'll come into heat every 21 days. That's a horse's cycle, every 21 days. And Zoe will start following her in March, figuring out what her heat cycle is, and then follow her in April. And then when May gets here, she'll know exactly when she's going to be in heat and when her cycle is wide open and when she's ready to be bred. And then I'll take her over to Alabama when she's in that window and get her bred. She just does it natural out in the pasture. She doesn't do any controlled, like tying her up like she is right now and then introducing the stallion. She just puts her out in the paddock with the stallion and just lets Mother Nature take its course. The reason I'm going to do a live cover is because that's your best percentage of getting your horse bred. The semen is fresh, it's hot, You can get a cooled semen and have it shipped to you, but your chances decrease. And then you can get a frozen semen and have it shipped to you. They actually ship it to the vet, not to you. But when they do that, your chances decrease. So fresh, live, hot semen is the best, and then cooled semen is the middle of the road, and then frozen semen is your worst option. The deal is you pay a stud fee. Her stud fee is $550 for that blue Rhone Brabant. But that's guaranteed. If you do a frozen semen or a cooled semen and have it shipped to you, you have to pay the stud fee, but then you have to pay about $200 shipping because they overnight it. And then if it doesn't take, and you get one shot, and if it doesn't take, then you have to pay $200 again for another shipped load of semen. She said if she doesn't take on her first try, she'll do it again until she takes. As long as she can conceive. She may have an issue with her ovaries that I don't know about, that she can't conceive. That happens. So I don't know what her condition is. So if she doesn't take on the first time, and Zoe may be able to look at her and when she's following her, and I'm sure she can, and then let me know if she can conceive. And she'll be here shortly, and I'll get her to go over a little bit of exactly what the following is and exactly what she's going to be doing. But today was supposed to be 80 degrees and sunny. It's February the 21st. I am so not ready for hot weather. So I'm hoping it's just something that's coming from out west, and it's only coming for a few days. But you can see it's pouring down rain. It's about 63 degrees, which is fine. So we're just in the barn today, just brushing and cleaning, feeding. I'm going to treat her scratches while I've got her in here. She's doing great. Hopefully this rain will pass over quickly and we'll get back to some dry weather. I'm not real happy that we're going to get back into a muck fest out here. We just got over it. But what I was saying earlier about that stallion being a blue Rhone Brabant, that is a Belgian variety. It's a European Belgian, and I don't really know much more than that, but it is a Belgian horse. So it'll be a Percheron mare and a Belgian Brabant sire. While we've got a little bit of break in the rain here, I put all the girls back out in the pasture to eat on their hay, but I wanted to show you the pecan trees. I planted 5 pecan trees about 12 months ago or so, and I put the cart before the horse because I didn't have it irrigated. You can see now it's irrigated. And the irrigation is coming from the overflow of the windmill down that black pipe and all the way down the driveway. You guys saw me do that about 6 months ago. Originally, I'd put out 3 Sumners, an Oconee, and a Cherry Lee so that they would all cross-pollinate. And the 3 down at the end of the driveway died. So I've got a Sumner right here that's doing well. She's about to start budding. All these buds are going to pop out into leaves. And then the second tree is a Sumner as well. Same thing, all of this growth and all of these buds are going to be popping. I was able to get an Oconee for the Oconee that I lost, but I was not able to get a Cherry Lee. So what I ended up getting right here is a Creek, and she's got buds all over her as well. I got a Lakota. And then this is my Oconee to replace the Oconee that I lost. Now, I was interested in getting cross-pollination, and I knew that the trees that I originally had were going to cross-pollinate. So The lady that I bought these from down in Middle Georgia, these replacement trees, she claims that they'll all cross-pollinate. So the trees will all throw different size nuts, and the trees will probably be different sizes, but in the end, they'll all be close enough in size. I've got them 75 feet apart. We've got tons of irrigation going. They're getting plenty of water. So as soon as we get some consistent warm weather, which I'm not ready for it in the middle of February, but I'm talking like April, we need to get back into winter and get some cold weather here. We haven't even had snow yet, but they ought to do real well. So it'll be nice if you look down, you can see them, and it'll be real nice to have, you know, big trees there. And then when the girls are over in paddock 1, they'll have the shade there. All right, guys, Zoe's here. We just gave everybody their vaccines. Everybody's back over in the pasture, and Zoe is getting ready to go home for the evening. She is going to share with us what following the mare is for the next couple of months. Yeah. So everybody's favorite vet, Zoe, is back, and she is going to explain to us what following is.
Okay, so the situation is that Jule, a 16-year-old Percheron mare, is David's planning on breeding her this spring. She's going to get bred via live cover by a 15-year-old stallion. He's gorgeous, blue roan, big Belgian. And live cover we chose for her because out of convenience and also because of her age. The older the mare is, her chances decrease of being able to conceive, especially if you're trying to breed her with frozen semen or cooled semen. Your numbers kind of go down. So live cover, if it's available, is definitely gives you the highest pregnancy rate. With that being said, David and I had a conversation, and we elected to start following her cycle, is what I call it, following her cycle, which means her natural ovarian cycle. It's usually approximately 21 days long in a normal mare. In general, the smaller the mare, the shorter the cycle, and the bigger the mare, the longer the cycle. However, it's variable from mare to mare. Some mares, the average is 21 days, like I said, but some mares may be 18 days before they cycle again, and some may be 27 days. It just depends on the mare. Talking about a mare's cycle, we mentioned that it's 21 days long. A typical cycle consists of a diestrus period, meaning she is not in heat, and that usually lasts about 14 days. And then on average, then they come into heat for approximately 7 days. And that's when you see the typical mare in estrus, mare in heat signs with their vulva winking, the tail flagging, flirting with the boys, peeing at the fence line if there's a gelding in the next pasture, acting a little more marish, if you will. So those are all signs that she's in heat and she is ready to be bred at that point in time. And so what I'll be looking for with my ultrasound is their ovaries follow through these cycles, and they change. The structures on the actual ovary themselves change, and also the uterine lining changes in response to the different hormones that are taking place during different portions of their cycle. So when the mare is not in heat, you'll see a quiet uterus, and you maybe just will see a CL on an ovary, and everything's pretty not much going on. And then when she's in heat, you'll see edema everywhere, and the whole uterine lining will be thickened, and there may be a little fluid in there, and she'll have a big follicle on one of her ovaries or both ovaries, or maybe more than one follicle. But ideally, in the perfect world, we would have one large follicle on one ovary, and we would track that follicle through her heat cycle until it gets large, and we want to measure that. And as it approaches, the follicle itself is what is going to mature to a specific size. When it reaches a certain size, it will basically burst open, and the ova, the egg, will come out of the follicle and travel down her oviduct, down the uterine horn, and usually gets fertilized inside the uterine horn or the uterine body by the sperm. So our goal is to time that. That's why we're going to follow her cycle, so we can get a feel for not only how long is her cycle, how long is her heat cycle, how long does she stay in heat for, and also how big are her follicles when she ovulates, because that's different for every mare too. Some mares typically, they're like clockwork. Every mare will ovulate approximately in the range of a 35 to 45 millimeter follicle, but some mares, the smaller the mare, maybe she ovulates a smaller follicle, the bigger the mare. Obviously Jule's pretty darn big, so she may ovulate a 50 millimeter follicle, but we won't know that until we start following her cycle, tracking her follicles, measuring them, and then we can actually see how, like, if we measure it every single day, like leading up to it, we can measure how big it's going to get, and then we can predict basically predict when she is going to ovulate, and therefore I can tell David when is the best time to breed her, because we want to time the semen insertion at the time that she ovulates. And so that's why we follow mares in the first place, is so that we can time it better, so that there's less time wasted and less money wasted in the long run, so we don't have to like rebreed her 5 or 6 times because we're not getting the timing right. David has never tried to breed Jule before, so with that being said, we don't know what her normal cycle is, or even what her ovaries look like, or her uterus. I want to, get in there. I'm going to use my ultrasound to rectally palpate her and scan her uterus and her ovaries and all the associated structures and make sure everything looks good. I'll be looking for any strange anatomy, any weird cysts or tumor-like areas, any thickening of the uterine lining, anything that looks like maybe abnormal cycling is taking place. It's February here in Georgia, and so the mares are transitional right now, meaning that their cycle is dormant throughout the winter, so they're transitioning into their cycling period. As the days get longer, mares start coming into heat, and they start cycling again. Prime time to breed is anywhere from February, March, April, May, June sometimes. Later you get in the summer, their cycle is not as reliable. So we're gonna start maybe 2 months before she's ready to breed. He has a breeding date. Jule has a date with her stud in May, I believe. So we should probably start following her in March. And in the perfect world, we would check her every week or so. In a perfect world, sometimes every other week. It just kind of depends sporadically. That way we can kind of get a feel for what her cycle looks like, make sure she's cycling normally, that she's forming an appropriate CL, which is going to produce your hormone needed to maintain the pregnancy, and just make sure that we give her the best chance possible to be able to conceive and carry that baby to term, because there's a lot on the line. There's a mare on the line, there's money on the line, and also the future of his farm and all that stuff. So we just want to give her the best chance we can.
So Dr. Zoe did an incredible job of explaining that. She always does, and she's always so gracious to let me interview her during my videos, and I really appreciate her doing that. So she vaccinated the babies. They got their full vaccines for the annual year. They got their strangles, they got their Coggins, they got everything. But I didn't show any of that because it was going to be an exact repeat of what we had done with Jule just about 4 weeks ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include the video of Jule at the end of this video, or in the description below, of her getting her vaccines. And Dr. Zoe does an incredible job of explaining what the vaccines are, why we give the vaccines, what diseases they're preventing, and how the diseases are transmitted. So it's very informative. So the last thing to do is, these girls didn't give me a fecal sample, so I'm waiting on a fecal sample so I can get it turned in so she can do a worm check on them. They didn't give me one yet, so that'll have to wait for another day. So I'm going to turn these girls out, let them get back on the pasture. I've got to put out a fresh bale of hay for them, and then I'm going to hook up the drag harrow, and I'm going to spread all the manure piles out. So I appreciate you guys watching this week, and as always, remember who you are, be kind to those around you, stand up for what you believe in.